What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger. Up next on the GM AFC North post draft assessment. Do me a quick favor, hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Let's talk about it. So, finally, man, able to get back into the lab and talk about the Ravens, the AFC North, and the AFC. So, we're going to take a look at each AFC North team and what they did in the draft, and do we believe they met all of their needs going in and what they look like coming out. So let's get into it. Let's start with the Bengals, the bottom seeds from 2023. The Bengals went into this draft looking as if they had a clear mission. They started off their first four picks. They went Amarius Mims, offensive tackle. They went Jenkins, defensive tackle. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver. And then they finished up that fourth pick in the third round with Jackson, another defensive tackle. And I may have the Jackson and Jenkins picks mixed. I know they're both J's. I know they're both defensive tackles. Nevertheless, it looks like the Bengals' goal was to address their trenches. Let's start with Amarius Mims. The Cincinnati Bengals have been trying to get that franchise left tackle for some time, and it looks like they did that. They're probably going to put Mims at right tackle, or maybe they'll flip flop Orlando Brown and Mims. However they do it, man, it looks like they have nabbed the type of player 6'8", 320 plus pounds, powerful, athletic, good mover, good blocker, and if he can stay healthy, they've established bookend uh, um, pass protectors with Brown and Mims. So it looks like they may have found their franchise tackle for the next decade. And then when you jump to the two defensive tackles who both addressed the defensive trenches, uh, it looks like the Bengals had a level of self-awareness in this draft, knowing that they ended last season not being one of the best uh, teams against the run. In fact, one of the worst. I think they were number 26 against the run, allowing 126 yards per game. They knew that, and they were ranked 26th with DJ Reader, who they lost. So losing him is not going to make them better, but only worse. So they went into this draft and they came out with two defensive tackles, two guys who are stout, good run defenders. Both can offer some interior pass rush, and I believe it is Jackson who can play a little bit on the edge as well. So I think they came away with their three out of their three out of their first four picks. Excuse me, addressing their trenches. I think they did a good job with that. And then they got Jermaine Burton, who certainly could be an immediate step in, replacing Tyler Boyd, who is still an unsigned free agent. But also, Burton has the potential. He has the skill set. He's a good route runner. He has good speed, and he has excellent hands. He absolutely could be the eventual replacement for T. Higgins, whether T. Higgins leaves this summer. Uh, Before training camp begins, like in some type of trade, whether T. Higgins is traded at the midway point or whether T. Higgins leaves next offseason. It looks like T. Higgins is going to exit the Bengals, and Burton is the type of player who could step in and take up some of that slack that is left by T. Higgins. And so I believe the Bengals did exactly what they needed to do in this draft. I think they are a better team coming out of the draft, addressing a lot of the needs that they had. So I think the Bengals get an A for being able to go into the draft, get solid players. I don't think they reached for anybody. I think everybody was picked right where they were supposed to be picked. And so I give the Bengals an A for their draft, hitting a lot of needs, which means if they hit the needs early, all the rest of the picks could be bonus. So shout out to the Bengals for handling their business. Let's jump to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns kind of had a kind of a ho hum, non exciting draft, but I believe that makes sense simply because the Cleveland Browns went into the draft already solid, right? When you look at the Cleveland Browns prior to the draft, their offensive line is solid. Uh, they got a question at quarterback, but you knew that Cleveland was not going after no quarterback in the first four picks. or even the first 3 rounds. Let me say it that way. Their backfield is pretty solid, especially with Chubb returning and doing a restructure, freeing up some cap space on his deal. Um, I think if Chubb is healthy, their backfield is set. And then when you look at the tight end position in Cleveland, they're straight. When you look at the wide receiver position, they're pretty good, adding Jerry Judy in this all season. So when you look at them offensively, they were already good, solid at all the positions. And then when you take a look at their defense, they're solid in the trenches. They got two edge rushers and Garrett and Smith. They got good interior. They got solid linebacking play, and they got good secondary play. So they were already solid, not having many, if any, holes going into this draft. So when you look at their first 3 picks, they just built depth. I think the only guy who could be kind of a day one plug and play impact player is their first pick, defensive tackle Hall, who definitely could offer some run defense inside of Miles Garrett and also some interior pass rush. Then they took Zenter, a guard. The guard position is already set. But so Zenter just adds some good depth, maybe a potential starter later on when one of the guys ahead of him leave in free agency or whatever that looks like. And then their third pick was Thrash, a wide receiver. And I don't know a lot about Thrash. I didn't look him up. I do know he does have some skill. He does have some quality attributes as a wide receiver. So I think that he'll definitely make the team, if nothing more than an early special teamers, kind of a punt returner, kick returner. But I think he slots in right behind Elijah Moore, who is their slot. And so I think Cleveland went into this draft and they just maybe took best player available or just drafted for depth because their roster was already pretty set. So I give the Cleveland Browns draft. I'm gonna give it a B, right? Just simply because not a lot of excitement. I think Hall, um, who probably was one of the top defensive tackles in this draft. A quick first step, uh, has a real ability to get off the ball, has a good ability to push the pocket. I think that he will certainly be a force alongside Miles Garrett, which I think he will play. So I give the Cleveland Browns a B. Pittsburgh is the next team up that we're going to talk about in the AFC North, and Pittsburgh I thought had a real nice draft for where they were drafting, who they were drafting, and what they needed. Pittsburgh took Troy Fontaine in the first round, a guy who played offensive tackle, but is probably going to slot in as a guard. And the speculation was right after he was drafted that he would play center because the Pittsburgh Steelers needed a real upgraded center because Fontaine actually can play all 5 positions across the offensive line. But he's probably going to certainly play guard in Pittsburgh, and he's not going to play center because Pittsburgh turns around and in the second round drafted Zach Frazier, the best center believed in this draft. And so when you look at these first 2 picks, Pittsburgh is definitely building that offensive line. And I kind of see what Pittsburgh is up to, which I'll talk about more when I do the post June 1st uh, AFC rankings. But Pittsburgh definitely went into this draft with a plan, and that was to upgrade their offensive line. And I certainly believe they did that. In fact, they've been upgrading this offensive line for the last 2 seasons. Because they took Jones, offensive tackle, last year, and then they follow up with a first round guard tackle this year and a second round center. And so when you look at Pittsburgh's third round pick, you knew they were going to take a wide receiver at some point. They took Roman Wilson, and then behind Roman Wilson, they took Peyton Wilson, linebacker. So when you look at the first picks of the Pittsburgh Steelers draft, I thought they got all quality picks, and Fonatanu went right where he was supposed to be. Zach Frazier, there was some rumor that he may go bottom of the first round, but when Pittsburgh gets him middle of the second round, definitely good value for a quality guy, a guy who's smart, who can patrol the middle of that offensive line, a guy who's a leader. Uh, Roman Wilson is one of the best slots in this draft. and he's going to step right in, probably filling in that role vacated by Deontay Johnson. He has good quickness. He has good hands. He has quickness and shiftiness, and we know that Pittsburgh does a great job with their wide receivers, and so I think that he will definitely, be a running mate for George Pickens and be a good target for whoever plays quarterback this season in Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson and or um, Justin Fields. And then when you look at the last pick, Peyton Wilson, who probably is the best linebacker in this draft out of NC State, but because of his medicals, some injury history with his knee or knees, definitely dropped out of the first for sure. Believed to be a second round pick, dropped out of the second round, so Pittsburgh nabbed him near the bottom of the third. Or late in the third, let me say it that way. And so I thought Pittsburgh one got good value, but I thought they upgraded and added a lot of depth and talent to this team. So I do believe that Pittsburgh is a better team, certainly after the draft, with probably two or three uh, day one plug and play guys, Fonatanu, Frazier, and Roman Wilson. And then I think that Peyton Wilson does find his way on the field because he is a good in pass coverage, does have sideline to sideline ability. And when you add him to what they have on defense, Pittsburgh is definitely a team on the rise. I give Pittsburgh an A for their draft. The Baltimore Ravens had a little bit of controversy in the draft amongst the fan base, amongst content creators, but across the board, the pundits believe that the Baltimore Ravens had a A-type draft. And so when you look at the Baltimore Ravens drafts, we're going to take a look at their first five picks, which is a little different than we did with the other three AFC North teams. The Baltimore Ravens picked 30 with Nate Wiggins, of course. Roger Rosengarten picked 62 second round. Adisa Isaac 93 third round. And in the fourth round, with 113 and 130 respectively, Devontae Walker and TJ Tampa. And when you look at the picks collectively, what the Baltimore Ravens did is set themselves up in the secondary for the next 4 to 5 years, with Nate Wiggins believed to be the best cover corner in this draft, and then TJ Tampa, a guy who has some size, some length, some toughness, and so you have to believe that they're better in that secondary than when they went into the draft, right? When you look at Roger Rosengarten, uh, offensive tackle, a guy who is going to come in and instantly compete. Some believe that he'll come in and just start at the right tackle position. I hope that there is a true competition at right tackle, not because uh, I don't want Roger Rosengarten to start, but I would like to see Daniel Falele get a real shot to compete. Because here's the truth: if you can get Daniel Falele at 6'8", 300 and whatever pounds, 360, 70 pounds, if you can get him down to a solid playing weight, and if he can lock in with that length and that strength on that right tackle position, now Roger Rosengarten may be the left tackle of the future. With all of his ability, the quickness, the athleticism, good in pass block, good in run block, he would be an ideal fit to slide over at 6'5", 308 pounds to that uh, left tackle position. But we don't know. Again, it is believed that Daniel Falele will get a real shot, and if so, if Daniel Falele can win it, it doesn't mean he's better than Rosengarten. It just means they're going to try and push Rosengarten to be that left tackle of the future. That's what I believe is going to happen. But we'll see. Nevertheless, let's get into Adisa Isaac, third round. This is probably the most controversial pick because some believe we should have doubled up at offensive line and or went with another wide receiver. Devontae Walker, third rounder. Right now, he's going to be purely a deep threat. He is a kid with a lot of talent, and I think that what kind of hurt his stock is that he didn't play a full season this 2023 season because of some NCAA controversy, and he's had multiple quarterbacks. I think if Walker could have been able to slot in at a school and just learn and develop with one system, with one quarterback, I think he would have been holistically a better player. You know, when you're switching systems, when you're switching quarterbacks, when you're switching coaches, it kind of disrupts development. And so I think that we'll see him definitely get on the field day one and do some things. He's too talented not to get on the field and offer some contribution, if nothing more than a deep threat. And then, you know, we've already talked about TJ Tampa. When you look at the Baltimore Ravens, the first five picks, and holistically, we can only say that this team is better coming out of the draft. How much better? That's going to remain to be seen. My hope and my goal for this rookie draft class, as mini camp start and OTA start and things like that, is that they get into training camp healthy. Uh, I would love to see these five picks specifically arrive at training camp healthy. No ankles, no hamstring, no soft tissue stuff. Just because if they can arrive at training camp healthy, all five get a real shot to learn, grow, and develop with the pads on, that kind of thing. And so when you're installing different schemes, when you're installing, um, plays and things of that nature, you need these rookies to be on the same page with the, for the offensive players, with the quarterback, with the offensive line coaches, and with the offensive coordinator. You need these defensive players to be on the same page with newly hired, I guess you would call it, or promoted Zach Bohr. And so that would be my goal, right? I don't even really care to hear a whole lot of excitement out of rookie mini camp or OTAs. I want to see these guys arrive at training camp healthy. When you look at the AFC North holistically post draft, every team got better. Uh, some teams got marginally better. Some teams got exponentially better with the type of talent that they added. But I think at the end of it all, it's all going to play out on the field. I think each team met some needs. I think each team is going to come away from this draft with some bonus. Bonus meaning they're going to add to depth rotation and things like that. And so, um, as I look at it right now, I think all four of these teams absolutely could compete for playoff spots. I'm not sure if that's ever been done before, with all four teams in one division getting into the playoffs, but I think they all could, because they all were on the verge last year. When you think about the Cincinnati Bengals, their biggest pickup this offseason is going to be Joe Burrow, right? That puts them in playoff contention. For the Cleveland Browns, we don't know. They don't know necessarily what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, but I think that Tyler Huntley, as I previously stated, could be a factor in helping this team compete. When you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, um, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, I think both of these guys could be upgrades over what they had, especially if they arrive again healthy, right? Now, I don't care, right? I don't really care if any of these teams arrive healthy, but um, I think that they're better. Pittsburgh is better at quarterback now than when they ended the season. And then for the Baltimore Ravens, I think that uh, this offensive line has to gel and has to gel quickly. I do look for the Ravens to add a few veteran pieces along that offensive line. Um, there's been a little bit of buzz, a little bit of rumor about Dalton Risner joining his team, and he may already have. I haven't really had an opportunity to really check any news and anything like that. So I'm kind of making this video off the cuff, man. So let me know what you guys want me to know, man. Do you think that each team in the AFC North got better? If so, how much better? Because I think every team made some improvements and are better than when they went into this draft, which is the goal, to be better out of the draft than going into the draft. Now, here's a real truth. Some teams in this draft didn't really get better. So listen, I'm your guy Boulanger. I'm out.